Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the merciful, the kind. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. Assalamu alaikum. Right, okay. Said so many great things that I would love to echo through this. I'll give you a 2-minute ML. And I'll do this because I think it will frame a lot of what I'm saying. After 9/11, I spent a year on the road with my husband and I. We had a 3-week-old daughter. And we spent a year almost, like, at civic halls, church halls, Methodist centres, synagogues, school halls, CNN, BBC, Sky, and it was all, as the sister said, about there's this big international event beyond our control, beyond anything we have to do with, but somehow we have to react to it. Well, we're anti-violence, we're anti-extremism, we're anti-terrorism. Oh, we're really nice, really. And after a year of this, I just thought, and it was actually in this room, in the anniversary of 9/11, where there was more media here, that they held an anniversary event. No Muslims turned up, really, and the media turned up in droves. And I was set to read out a dua, and it was just a horrible experience. I thought, I can't do this any longer. I was exhausted, I had fatigue, and emotionally and spiritually, in every way, I thought, I've had enough. I can't keep saying, I'm anti-terrorism, I'm anti-violence. It just felt like, here, international incident beyond my control, I've got to react. Another incident, and you just become like a marionette, like a puppet, just reacting to all of these things. And we need to snap the strings. We've got to snap the strings of being the marionette puppet. And we need to be the one who is actually engaging. So we decided to put out a Mel, which is a lifestyle magazine geared towards the Muslim community, and it was about what we are, what do we stand for, not what we're against. Yeah, we're anti-violence, let's just take that as a given, right? Because generally, there's not many people I've met in my life who are actually for violence, extremism, terrorism, blah, blah, blah. Me. So, if we're for these...
You, brother. Sorry.
you don't meet people who are for these things. But what are we for? What do we stand for? What are we about? And so we decided to create a mail that showed the normalization of Muslims. It was Muslims who were doing music, Muslims who were doing art, Muslims who were doing fashion design, Muslim photographers, the real life stories. When we ran a front cover story with Sifu Mackenzie, who is a convert to Islam, a martial artist, studied under the lineage of those who taught under Bruce Lee and Wing Chun, and he was our front cover story. He then got 40 follow-up phone calls, and I think that's one of the beginnings of the Ninjabi story, because his wife, she is also a martial artist, and she teaches women, and they have these whole hijabi sessions for sisters, and it became we often get people who are in a mill in a very normal fashion. We give them a lot of space, we give them a lot of room, and the media then pick up on it. And it's about what we are, rather than what we're against. But sometimes we do have to react. And I want to just talk a couple of minutes about reacting. The first thing I'll say is, how many of you know what BBC Have Your Say is? Not very many. How many of you know what the Guardian's Comment is Free is? Not exactly in the room, are we? And how many of you are signed up to either of these? Because you can't comment unless you sign up. Well, that's really sad. That's quite pathetic, really, actually.
He's a journalist.
Right, okay. This is what I would call basic entry-level media engagement. Right? You have these forums. BBC Have Your Say on the internet. BBC Have Your Say is so read, so listened to, and so is comment is free. But if we're not signing up, all you have to do actually with the BBC is sign up and say, this is the comment I most like. So instead of it being the hysterical, Muslims are taking over the universe type comments, it could be, if enough of you sort of vote for it, and believe me, 128 votes, 158 votes, these are the type of numbers we're dealing with, bumps that story up to the top of the comment that we like. To make a paragraph comment of something coherent, you need to be signed up. If you're not prepared to even be bothered to sign up to that on a story, then what are we doing? That is the very beginning, entry level, talking to, and this is the sort of media way it's going forward. Once upon a time, it used to be letters to editors. In those days, I would have said to you, it's got to be minimum of a maximum of a page. You should always be able to see your signature at the bottom of a letter. Editors do not have the time to read pages and pages and pages of letters. I get them in the mail all the time. Right? You should be able to see your signature at the bottom of the page, make your major points in the opening paragraphs. Editors edit from the bottom up. Right? So that's if you're writing a letter to an editor. Entry-level reactive engagement. That's bottom line. If we're not doing that, we're really not doing it. And when we do react, we should be reacting positively to hugging reporters, That it's not just the bad stories we've got to react to. React to the bad stories, oh, Muslims are saying this, Muslims are doing that, oh, that's terrible, we must write in a letter, right, and say how awful that is. But what happens when there's a good show that we like? What happens when there's something positive? Because it's really, you could bet, absolutely, if there's a positive story, there'll be people writing in saying, that's really bad. Right? So there was a brother I know who was working with Channel 4 at the time. He did a very, very good program post 7/7, and there was lots and lots of negative feedback, right, for this program. It was a very fair program. And so his producers started to get a bit twittery because they didn't like all this negative feedback. So then the brother started to write to a few friends saying, well, look, did you like the program? He said, yeah. Well, can you write in and say you like the program? So people started to write in and say, well, we like that program. That was good. And so then his producers started to have this balance. Well, there's people that don't like it. Oh, there's lots of people that do like it too. Well, that's all right then. So it's not just about reacting when something's bad. It's also about reacting when something's good. But really, reacting is just is entry level. We really should be moving well away from that into absolute full-on engagement. About not saying what we're against, what we don't like, or what we like, somebody else's agenda, but setting our agenda. How do we set our agenda? And that's what I'll tackle in the next few minutes. The first thing I would say is that, and the sister underlined this again and again, it's got to be as we are generally. It doesn't just have to be about Muslim issues. We need to set the agenda. If we're doctors, perhaps we should go on a program or a story in relation to being a doctor. Community garden project. I'm having an issue chasing a community garden project at the moment. You wouldn't believe it, would you? It's like, oh my dear God. But, marrows aren't that exciting. It won't get you into trouble, promise. But, engage as human beings. Don't just engage as Muslims. We've got to be ambassadors for our faith, speakers of our faith. No! Nothing better than when Hassan calls up on the radio, or you listen to him, Abdullah or Muhammad or whatever his name is, and he's going, that Liverpool match was rubbish! On the sort of 606 Radio 5 Live after a football match. Oh God, did you see Man U pants? And you're thinking, yeah, thank you, Hassan, because Hassan isn't just calling up going, about this and Muslims that, Muslims this, and whatever. He's talking about how lousy, Beckham was particularly free kick or something like that. That's engagement, and his name's out there, and that's positive. And you want, people to call up just about those kind of very everyday things. Don't just engage as Muslims, engage as you are as human beings. I do one show. I do it in sort of slots of about 8 or 10, and it's a Terry Wogan show. It's called Pause Before, and I am on there as a Muslim, right? Because, that Christian, I am on there as a Muslim. But I don't hit them with Quran and Hadith every week, I don't whack them, there's the theology in the Akhirah, I talk about my chickens. I talk about my pedometer. I talk about my kids. I talk about exams. I talk about my mum in hospital. I talk about whatever. And at the end of it, or in the middle of it, or somewhere, I say, there's a Muslim saying. I don't say, and, on the authority of, this one, on the authority of that one, and, I take a few liberties. I cut it short. I say there's a Muslim tradition. There's a Muslim saying. I might say that, in the Quran it says. Every now and then. Sometimes I didn't even mention Islam or Muslims at all. I could go weeks without mentioning